Are you feeling pressured to change your sound or your plan or your image, your brand, your identity, your strategy? If you're feeling that pressure, stick around. Let's talk about how to remain true to yourself while still maintaining and driving for growth in the music industry. So, a really common theme, common question that comes up through our work with coaching clients and workshops and education is how, as an artist, do you stay authentic? What does that even mean? What does that look like to and for you? It's a really common question, and it's particularly pertinent because we operate in an industry which is incredibly dynamic. It's changing all the time, whether it's strategies, plans, platforms, how you interact, how you engage, what fans and potential fans are looking for from an engaging artist. It's really quite quick, changing, transient. It can be a minefield. So if that's you, and if you've thought that before and had those sorts of considerations, well, let's go through and try and unpack some mindset changes that might help you, some practical applications that might kind of really align and reinforce what your authenticity is to you. So I tried to break this down into 7 areas to consider when thinking about authenticity. And first up is defining what authenticity means to you. It's not necessarily a dictionary definition. It's the authenticity that makes you you and can be a real kind of spine, backbone, guide, framework of always being able to remain true and authentic to your intention, to what you want to do, what you want to be, how you want to do it, how you want to be it. So it's important to talk about how authenticity isn't just about being real. Because again, what does that mean? That's another thing you try to have to define as I am real. What's real mean? It's actually much more useful to talk about yourself. What makes you feel authentic? And let's start with the music. What kind of music do you love making, regardless of any trends? So it's not about what you think might engage, what you think might be a hit, what you think might do well on streaming platforms. This is about finding what really motivates and moves you as a creative artist. What music do you like to make? Focus on that first. And then from that, quite neatly leads into what messages or themes are naturally showing up from the songs that you're writing. You know, it might be political resistance, it might be going out and having fun, it might be a darkness to life that you're observing and commentating on, it might be a lightness to life and, you know, a fun element to life. Whatever it might be, really look into your music for the answers. Like, analyze those lyrics and find those commonalities that keep bubbling to the surface throughout your music. And then on the other side of that equation, try to put yourself in the shoes of a member of your audience or fans if you're a bit further. If you feel confident you've got fans, what would your fans say about your music? Put yourself in their shoes, and how would they, you might even ask them, that could be quite useful. Ask them, ask yourself if you're a fan, ask them if you've got fans, how would they describe your artistry? How would they describe your artistry? Because that feeds back into you, either reinforces some things that you're already finding out from those first 2 steps about what music do you love to make, what are your lyrics saying in terms of themes across songs. That might reinforce that or ignite a few more ideas. Either way, you're getting further into the core of what moves you, what keeps things authentic and real to you in terms of your creative output, your creative intentions. That's really useful. And then I think finally, just to wrap this section up, it's important to emphasize this isn't about keeping stagnant. It's not like once you find out these themes and messages from your music, that's it. That's going to be your authenticity forever. Authenticity itself is allowed to evolve. Humans evolve, we grow, we face challenges, things happen to us, and we have to adapt and change. That is exactly the same when we're talking about your authenticity as an artist. So don't think by doing this, suddenly you're going to remain stagnant. That is not the case. This is just identifying a real strong understanding, framework, plan almost of what authenticity is to you, for you, in this moment of your artistic journey. And secondly, I'd like to touch on what I mentioned previously in terms of the music industry being incredibly dynamic. It has always been adapting and changing. If you think about even from vinyl to CDs to streaming or MP3s before that, and then to streaming, like think about relatively how quickly that has evolved, changed and adapted. So it is always going to do that, and trying to find an area, a place of comfort, maybe not comfort, but understanding that that is the case, I think frees us up a little bit from being too motivated or energized by trying to stay on a trend in the industry. It's going to adapt and change. Therefore, knowledge of that allows you to know and feel that adapting as you grow is useful, it's important, it's normal, it's something we should embrace. So experimentation allows that kind of more open mind, a freeness to explore where your growth might come next. So experiment in the context of knowing that the industry that you connect with through your music is always going to change, and it's okay. You can change too. I think an interesting example might be something on TikTok. So obviously there are loads of trends that pop up on TikTok. It's a very fast moving, fast paced territory that we engage with as artists, or mostly engage with. But you might think of your authenticity as, rather than jumping just straight on a trend, it might not feel right to you. And trust your gut, it might not feel right to you, might not feel authentic because that work you've done previously. So how might you then use that trend but inject the authenticity of yourself into the delivery of that content? So again, it's just an example of not staying away from trends because you're so authentic you can't possibly do that. No. That's back to evolving. You can stay authentic and have an output of authenticity in the content you make that might also be on a trend. It's really important to kind of think about it like that. You're adapting, but your core values, your core authenticity is always present. Thirdly, and still kind of talking about the music industry, is quite common is a thinking or a conclusion, I think an error in conclusion, that if you are kind of aware of what the music industry is doing, that suddenly you become inauthentic. That just isn't the case. Let's separate art from business. It is empowering for you to learn about the music business, music industry. That's a good thing to have an understanding of, but it doesn't mean that you have to pander to it. That's not what we're saying. But having an understanding of marketing and branding and the tools that we use to kind of connect and engage with an audience is incredibly useful, and it empowers you as an artist. It doesn't detract from your authenticity. You are not selling out. So we really need to get past that, because it's put a block on many an artist being able to progress, grow, build an audience, change it into a fan base. It really can get in the way. So separate it. The business is useful for you to know. It does not have to impact your art and your authenticity from and within your art. Two separate things. A good example might be like Frank Ocean. Frank Ocean left Def Jam, had amazing understanding of the business of music, and he went on to release in his own structured, strategic way. I think he's done okay. So again, like I think you'd agree, mostly, I hope, is an incredibly authentic artist. You know that he has values from his art, he has messages, he has certain themes, they've evolved, but Frank Ocean has a center in all of his creative output in his music. He took his knowledge of the music business, music industry, made it work for him while staying authentic. So what Frank had was a very clear understanding of the rules so he could break them strategically. The fourth area to discuss around authenticity is recognizing the difference between growth and compromise. And this is, once you've got a clear understanding of what's authentic to you, how you are authentic, this becomes slightly clearer and I guess easier to be aware of. And it's where your gut comes into it. If it feels like you're doing something as a compromise, it doesn't quite fit what you want to do. Maybe you've been kind of overly comparing yourself to someone even and kind of being taken in a certain direction that isn't you. Really practice that self-awareness and confidence to say, no, that I don't need to go that route. That's taking me away from my authenticity. This is where my authentic self lives, and that is more than okay. Now, growth is where you are intentionally experimenting. You're trying new sounds. You're working with different collaborators. You're experimenting with different marketing tools and messages that are still authentic, but you're experimenting. That's where growth lies. You still have to work out and explore what's new, what might not work for you, what does work for you as you grow. That isn't compromising. It's different and it's a mindset. Growth is experimentation for creative purposes because you're a creative individual, creative artist, you want to grow. Compromise is pursuing that experimentation through false contexts, false frameworks, motives that take you in the wrong direction. That isn't growth. That isn't really experimentation. Sometimes it's manipulation. Sometimes it's that comparative thing that's kind of led you down that way. So it's challenging, get that, but try and have that self-awareness. Like if you're growing, you're experimenting for creative means. If you're compromising, it's taking you down the wrong path. The fifth area I'd like to speak about is your environment. And that can be physical, but actually, probably more importantly, it's the people you surround yourself with. So, for example, if the people that are in your circle, whether that's creative or business-wise, they're not really facilitating your artistic output in an authentic way, there may be, as the previous point, maybe they are trying to lead you in a different direction because they think it might be more commercially successful. Don't do that. Don't do that. Find a tribe. Find your tribe, especially creatively, who get you, who challenge you so that they ignite a growth area in you. They add something to your inspiration palette. Sometimes they might be aspirational, but be careful that you're not comparing yourself. Aspiration is wonderful. That comparison can be quite limiting, as we've discussed many a time. So surround yourself with right people. And of course, as you progress, that is also true to the team that you build, that you attract around you, from managers, lawyers, booking agents, labels, publishers, that sort of thing. So be very aware that the people who are around you, supporting you, encouraging you, developing you, are the right people. They're there for the right reasons. And they're there to see you succeed, but in an authentic way that doesn't move you away from your authentic place, your authentic self. They should be adding to those things. So environment, very important. Be very mindful of that. The sixth point I'd like to cover is connecting with your audience in an authentic way. I think this one's really important. They're all important. This one's really important because we are surrounded by multiple platforms, multiple opinions telling you which one's the best, where you've got to be. At the moment of making this video, it's TikTok. Everyone's talking about you've got to be on TikTok and building big viral videos and followers. You don't have to be doing that. That shouldn't be a primary driver for your strategy and your plan. It shouldn't be. But showing up authentically to your audience, you're going to engage the right people in the right way. And those right people are more likely to turn into fans as they follow your journey. So what do I mean by showing up authentically? Let's think about the platform. Maybe for you as an artist, what's really authentic and works for you is longer form content on YouTube. Maybe a music video is actually more than just a music video. It's intrinsic to your authentic output of art. Maybe you have to have that visual because that really does link so authentically to what you're doing, who you are, what you want to do, what your intention is, that sort of thing. So if that's the case, there's nothing wrong with YouTube being your primary connecting platform with an audience. There's nothing wrong with that. Conversely, or similarly, if TikTok is where you want to be and where you really enjoy authentically putting out content that speaks to an audience there, if the shorter form content is the TikTok kind of framework of attention grabbing is actually where you're really excited and you want to operate, totally cool. That's authentic to you. I'm not saying you don't have to be on any other platforms. Like the overall marketing kind of suite, you have to have presence in all of them really, but it's how you show up on them in the context of this video, how you show up on them authentically and consistently that will do the work for you over time. So I really want to stress this point. It isn't about being everything to all people all the time. It's not that. Don't try to appease and please everybody. It just doesn't work. Do you like every sort of music and every sort of artist there is? Probably pretty confident that you don't. Well, that'll be the same. So you output authentically on the platforms and in the manner in which you choose so that it speaks your authenticity. And the last point, 7, kind of expands a little bit on that last section of the previous point, which is not everybody is going to get you or get your music. And that is totally okay. The danger, again, in the context of authenticity, the danger, the risk is that if you start to make choices because you're concerned that not everybody will love the single, the EP, the music video, the artwork, the images, whatever. If you start making decisions based on trying to people please, then you are going to drift so quickly away from what's authentic. And trust me, the audience, your growing audience, and definitely your fan base, if you've got genuine, tangible fans, they'll work it out in a second. And that can really erode any sort of trust, any sort of enthusiasm, loyalty, energy that they're bringing to you as an artist and your project. So be okay, please be okay with not everybody liking your music. They don't need to. You don't need them to either. So don't worry about it. Do it for you. Put your music out. Engage with an audience that are going to get you and your music. They'll find you. Don't worry about trying to please everyone. And finally, please remember, focus on, at the core of what you do, remembering who you are as an artist first. And that way, if that's at the center, you can embrace change and you can move with it and experiment without it ever having to redefine you as an artist.